A couple of state senators that said no to a really bad idea. Yeah, I mean, the other day I was talking about the truck toll idea and talking about the Senate, ratifying the whole thing without even doing their homework on it, really. And a couple of senators said, hey, wait a second, York, you don't know what you're talking about. We didn't vote for that. So they're here tonight to say, hey, wait a second, York, we didn't vote for that. How's everybody? I'm mortified. My Giants stink. No, check that. The coaching staff stinks. Meanwhile, Tom Brady scores, what, 40 points, Kev? 40 points up there in Buffalo. Honest to God, they'll probably lose maybe once or twice this year, but maybe not. They're on a mission. So that's my Monday morning NFL commentary. Dan York's State of Mind is NFL based on Mondays, like most Americans. You good? Good. Let's go to the rundown. We got lots to do, things to cover. Yeah, deal dead. Happened this weekend. Headline. Okay, the plug's pulled in the 195 Stadium idea, so we're never going to see the behind-the-scenes information on this. Eyewitness News reports.
Paw Sox Chairman Larry Lucchino said, we believe the site along the Providence River is exceptional, and it would have been a win-win-win for the state, the city, and the Paw Sox, and we tried hard to bring it to fruition. Once pitched, the deal faced multiple blows. Most recently, Brown University leaders indicated they wanted more money for their piece of the puzzle than the Paw Sox were offering. The deal also lacked support from city and state leaders, with the noted exception of House Speaker Nicholas Mattiello.
Yeah, who hid it behind the scenes and who never gave the second version any kind of transparency. So here's the map that we've been looking at all this time, the proposal site. So the top site, dead, not happening at 195. Now Victory Place is a whole nother conversation, not really. Here's the headline on Victory Place. Still being eyed for the Paw Sox Stadium. But the problem with that is that Rhode Island Hospital Lifespan just bought it and they're sitting on it. And unless they're going to make a killing and flipping it. The governor was asked about the 195 deal and why it died.
That particular parcel of land, had a series of challenges that we weren't going to get through, and it was time to move on and get to work on seeing if we can find a better place with a better deal for the people of Rhode Island.
It's always the cliches, a better deal for the people of Rhode Island. I wish the governor would stop being so intellectually lazy in her leadership approach, and I mean that. And I would say that directly to her because I never say anything about anybody I can't say to them. I don't think she's lazy. She breaks a new world record of being at events and speaking at stuff, and I think she likes being the governor and bopping around. But the truth is that if you really wanted to lead on this Paw Sox thing, you would have taken Larry Lucchino, especially after the passing, the tragic passing of Jim Skeffington, who was the original mover shaker on this and who brought the big $120 million net ask, which blew the public's perception of this thing sky high. I would have taken Lucchino and had a public press conference and said, look, we're committed to getting a deal done here or somewhere in this city or in this state, and we're going to lock ourselves in a room for a week until we get this thing done. And I would have brought in the stakeholders, the Fed guy on the 195 land. I would have brought in Brown University. I would have brought, right, you bring in some leaders, you bring in everybody, and you say, we're going to publicly commit to getting this thing done, or we'll publicly advise that we can't. That's the leadership that this governor should have presented and needs to present, and it is nowhere to be seen. And the win-win-win that Larry Lucchino talks about, even though the Paw Sox share a lot of the responsibility here for a really poorly executed plan, marketing-wise, and that phony listening tour and all that nonsense, what they're saying is win-win-win didn't happen. Lose, lose, lose. See ya. Watch Springfield, Massachusetts, with its MGM casino lay down a bunch of lumber, meaning money, and get this thing partnered up or invested or financed. We're in trouble with this thing. And if we lose the Paw Sox, you might say, it's no big deal. It is another chink in our psychological armor destroyed. Next item. Missed opportunity again. I hate to be a curmudgeon on a Monday evening, but I went to the Big E this week, this past weekend, for the first time in about 13 years. Now, many of you may know I'm from Western Massachusetts, at least in my last stop. Married a girl from Western Massachusetts. My daughter was born in Western Massachusetts, and the Big E was part of my thing. You've seen the Big E before, right? Here's the Rhode Island building at the Big E. It's part of the Eastern States Exposition Avenue of the States, and each of the states has their thing. The Rhode Island building is an embarrassment. And I'm going to check in further as to what department is responsible for this. Yeah, the little knick-knack, paddywhack, give Rhode Island a bone type of stuff. Oh, yeah, there we go. We got the clam. Yeah, they got the stuffy. Whatever. Yeah, food is a big part of the flavor of each of the buildings. You know, the main potato, whatever. The New York system hot wieners, there's no explanation. This is last year's video. No one from anywhere other than Rhode Island understands that New York system wieners are kind of a Rhode Island fabric, because most people just go, why is the New York system wieners in the Rhode Island building? Okay? No Newport, no Cliff Walk, no Providence, no Waterfire, no Blackstone River, okay? No nothing that details the wonderful tourism things that we have here. And while Gina Raimondo is trying to spend $5 million out of the state budget to do X and Y and have another phony commercial plan, 1 million people walk through that Rhode Island building every single season at the Big E, 17 days straight. Connecticut's got this digital movie thing about all the cool things going on. Vermont looks better. Maine looks better. New Hampshire looks better. Massachusetts looks better. We have a dirty, dingy, non-relevant house at the Big E. And somebody who's responsible for that needs a job review. Like, boom. Figuratively, of course. On a national scene, Dr. Ben Carson's got everybody's panties in a bundle. WashingtonPost.com. All right, he ain't backing down. Here's what he said on Meet the Press.
Should a president's faith matter? Should your faith matter to voters?
Oh, well, I guess it depends on what that faith is. If it's inconsistent with the values and principles of America, then of course it should matter. But if it fits within the realm of America and consistent with the Constitution, no problem.
So do you believe that Islam is consistent with the Constitution?
No, I do not. I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
So Dr. Carson sits at like third position in this race now. He's got himself in all sorts of hot water because the politically correct crowd out there has got a big deal with this. So I'm not going to take a position one way or the other on that in the small time that I have, other than to say, oy vey, it's not that big a deal. Rather than him being, you know, cremated or just creamed over this, let's have a conversation, including his own religion. And religion does need to be a part of your decision as to who you're going to vote for. You need to know how people think and pray. Pray and think. Fear God, don't fear God. Factor faith. That needs to be part of your vote. We should be relaxed and have a conversation about it, including his Seventh-day Adventist affiliation, which is unique. It's not that big a deal to talk about it. We got a winner right here locally. Again, Providence Journal, a headline on Viola. She does it, and then she took to the microphone.
And let me tell you something. The only thing that separates women of color from anyone else is opportunity. You cannot win an Emmy for roles that are simply not there.
You know, it's kind of like old hat now that microphone becomes a place for political and business platform in Hollywood, right? So we'll just accept it and just say, hey, Central Falls girl, done good. And finally, Bryant beat Brown this past Saturday. That's a big deal. Got a video on that, I'm sure, don't we, Kev? Well, we got a headline. Yeah, I guess 4 or 5 turnovers for Brown. Look, it's not the upset of the century, because Bryant has been building, Bryant's been building a football program like you wouldn't believe for the last 10 years. They might win their Northeast Conference, a Division I football conference. You think about it, between Bryant, now arrived on the scene, congratulations to the Bulldogs, Brown playing in the Ivy League, and URI struggling to get traction in the Colonial League, we got some pretty good college football around here. You know, buy a ticket on a Saturday afternoon. Your state of mind is important to us. 228-1886 is the telephone number for voicemail. Of course, you can Facebook post as well. We got one here. Reaction to Friday's show. Lynn says, please invite State Representative former Ray Rickman back again real soon. I like his perspective on everything he discussed. Can only pray the mayor and the governor either watched or someone's discussing it with them. Ray talked a lot about a Ferris wheel tourism project here and had a lot to say about, you know, the Paw Sox and pools and Providence and government in general. He's a pretty smart guy. We like smart people on the show. Hopefully we have a couple coming up. And you should watch the shows if you miss them, foxprovidence.com if you miss Ray Rickman on Friday. We'll be right back with senators who did not vote for the tolls. So like I said at the top of the show, I was on the radio the other day talking about the Senate that mindlessly passed the truck tolls without really doing their homework, and I got a note, hey, we didn't. I think it was from Senator Morgan, and then Senator G, whose name I mispronounced, got right on me on that one. Here was the headline that I might have been talking about. Well, that's the old one. The Senate okayed the truck tolls, and Mattiello, thankfully, had a moment of fluid thinking and has suspended this whole nonsense. And of course, there's the governor at the State House, and there are trucks. So that's all you need when it comes to truck tolls. My guests are Senator Elaine Morgan and Senator Mark Gee from Districts 34 and 35 respectively. I think we can sum by saying in the country, down south, South County.
South County, y'all come.
Do you talk like that in West Greenwich?
Whatever it takes.
Holy cow. Welcome, thanks, appreciate your coming. So you wanted to make sure I knew that you guys didn't get into that. Give me a quick perspective on the truck toll vote, which is, of course, hanging in this ridiculous limbo.
A quick perspective would be we didn't vote for it. We think that.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for
and
coming.
your first thought? Jess and I will figure out what to do with the 15 minutes we have left on the show.
There was an excellent editorial by Patricia Morgan in today's Providence Journal. I don't know if you
saw it.
Taxes
versus tolls.
Taxes versus tolls. And
meaning they are tolls or taxes, was her point.
The idea being that you can't get away from the fact that it's going to cost a lot of money. And it's going to cost not only the truckers, but of course, eventually that expense rolls down to you and me and all the taxpayers who buy stuff that those trucks carry. So it's that part of it is the hard one to swallow. And the idea of coming up with a $600 million tax bond, you know, and add the interest on top of that is
it's unfair.
Well, it's
unfair?
Also
unfair, or what? I
mean unfair to our taxpayers. If our roads were in such disarray and in a horrible state as they're claiming them to be, that should have been the first line item in the budget. They took it out of the budget.
Well, the roads are in terrible repair and the bridges are in bad shape.
Absolutely, and
So
Pat Morgan has...
That's not a myth.
That's not a myth. But shouldn't they have addressed it in the budget? Pat Morgan had she had a really good plan. We met a couple of weeks ago to talk about it. And a 10-year plan wouldn't cost, if we had it in the budget, we could fix these roads in a 10-year period, and it wouldn't cost our taxpayers any more money.
On a pay-as-you-go type of program. The DOT director, Mr. Alviti, suggested that he wants to put a lot of money up front, right? So do an attack on these bridges, and so financing that is the trick. So he wants to borrow money up front. He's looking for a revenue stream to be able to tackle that, and so that's why the tolls would come outside what is the general fund, which you know is a morass when it comes to dedicated revenue because it always gets lost. That's his thinking. I'm not here to make a defense of his position, but that's his thinking. And your reaction to that is what?
Well, it's one thing to say what you're going to do and another thing to actually follow through with it. You put up the gantries and at the cost of $40 or $50 million, first of all, I think that sends a bad message to people who are driving in Rhode Island, driving through, driving around, that, you know, we're going to get you regardless of what happens. But if we don't make enough on
they would say, well, the gantries are for the trucks only, we promise.
Yeah. Oh,
well, that's
course.
like the lottery was supposed to be for the schools only. It was supposed to fund the schools. Where's all that money going? It disappears.
It's like Governor Leach saying no increase in taxes or sales tax, whatever it was about 20, 25 years ago. Gets elected, boom, guess what?
Okay, well, listen, you're preaching to the choir here. I have said, you put the gantries up, they're not going to make the nut with the trucks. The trucks will bypass.
They'll take $395.
They won't make the nut, and you'll have $40 million of infrastructure up there what else do you think they're going to do? They're going to hit everybody.
Yeah.
However, talk to me about the process, how the sausage is made. How did it come to you guys? How much discussion did you have?
We didn't. I mean, it was just plopped in front of us. Vote on it. We had no.
Is that because you're lowly Republicans or are not in the
We're not in the
leadership?
loop.
You're not in the loop?
In the leadership.
What does it feel like to be Republicans not in the loop?
You know, doesn't bother me, but I will say that I think that it really slows down progress. My insiders are Catherine Gregg, the Bogdan reporter, you guys on the radio. That's how I get my privileged information. It's all outside of the mainstream. Really.
It really is.
It's
It
very,
really-
very sad. And you know something? When you have as much power as the Democrats do, they're not worried about keeping you in the loop, because with only five of us senators and 11 representatives, they're not really worried about our raising our voices in this.
What are you hearing, though, at least in the hallways about where this thing is going to be on the other side? It seems to me with the latest information about mismanagement not corrected yet in the DOT, I don't know why the administration decided to hide a review of the Chafee administration's DOT. I don't know why they did that. You saw that story last week. Why wouldn't you put that up front and explain to everybody what the problem is and how you're going to fix it? Instead, they hid the agreement. The Providence Journal had to literally sue to get it. You know, she's got a labor guy running the DOT, and they're calling all the shots. And right now, I'm not so sure that they're able to handle a $500 or $600 million project of this kind. Yes, no, you feel the same way? Yes?
I
no?
feel the same way. I mean, we have to fight for any information that we get. We're the last on the chain of getting anything.
But regardless of your junior status, so to speak, in the Senate, what I'm asking for is, what are you hearing about whether or not this thing has got life in the House and whether it's going to come back to you in the same or different form, or if ever? Are you hearing anything about it?
Nobody has knocked on my door to tell us what is in the loop. So.
We're in summer. I mean, we're in break right now, so we're not getting all the feedback or anything right now. But I'm sure come January 1st, it'll be first.
Well, there might have been
agenda.
two reasons for you to come back in the fall, and it seems like they're both not going to happen. First was the truck toll idea, which does seem to have lost some of its inertia. The Speaker, I think, has done a pretty good job, at least on this one, of saying hold the presses. Of course, he was trading votes for the Paw Sox. The Paw Sox deal blows up, so gosh knows what's going to happen as those two things come together, right? And the Paw Sox deal now is dead in Providence. Thought on that?
Well, you know, I think it's sad. It's, first of all...
Or dead for 195, I should say.
Yeah.
Maybe not the whole city.
Imagine being in Lucchino's position and you're trying to negotiate a solution to this thing and get the ballpark built where you want to get it built. And you're talking to the governor, you're talking to the Commerce Corporation, you're talking to 4, 6 other entities, all of whom have something to say. The I-195 Commission, who's in charge of really giving us direct answers. So I fault the administration for not being firmer and upfront and getting involved at the early stage so that maybe you can come to an agreement.
Well, I think that with the 38 studios lagging in the 4, you know, our constituents aren't trusting of
You
the
still
government.
hear about 38 complaints?
Oh, yes.
It's
yes.
It's not 38s per se. It's that they've already suffered 38,
Right.
but they can't get over 38.
They can't, unless those records all open up and we see who is responsible for the involvement in.
Well, have you guys ever made a formal petition in the Senate to ask for formal hearings? What the hell is your party, excuse my French, doing on what is the sitting softball down the middle for the Republican Party in this state to be literally animalistic over this 38 thing and demands for hearings? Like the governor admitted during campaign that it should be done. What are you
They
guys
formed
doing?
a commission, I mean, to investigate it, and people on that commission were threatened. I mean, their lives were threatened. This is big allegations that, I mean.
You know what? Politics is a tough business, Senator. I mean, what are you going to do? Okay, so you don't run hearings based on death threats?
Karen
Is that
McBeth
the way we operate
Definitely
around here?
needed to investigate it.
Yeah, Karen McBeth got off to a great start. She was tough and so forth, but
And Chippendale.
without the
And
subpoena power,
Representative Chippendale.
You
even
need
your
subpoena
own-
power.
Yeah, of
Right,
course.
we need subpoena power.
Well, why
we
does the
need-
Republican Party demand subpoena power for both houses in a joint hearing?
Maybe we need to. We're freshmen. We don't know. We're learning this process, and the way we find out is through you, through our constituents. And
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about, you're big on the illegal immigration conversation, right? You want to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay. Stay with us. All right, we got a couple of senators who are resting on their freshman laurels, or they're going to get tough. I don't know which. You wanted to talk about the driver's license issue. The governor the
Yes.
other day said she's open to a driver's license for illegal immigrants, undocumented citizens, illegal aliens, call it what you wish. What's your problem with that?
I think that they're here illegally. We're going to make it. They shouldn't be here to begin with. I think they should be using public transit. They should be
Well,
using this big busing system that we have and the train system, and that's my feeling. They're here illegally. They're not. They shouldn't have a license.
But they need to drive somewhere.
Well,
They shouldn't be here. They should drive back
Yeah.
to wherever they came from.
they should go down to the immigration office or whatever it is, apply for a visa or whatever documentation you need, go through the background checks, go through E-Verify. We have laws, and those laws are set up to protect the people.
Well, we don't
that
have a
come.
state system for E-Verify any longer. That was rescinded by Governor Chafee, and she didn't
Well,
do that.
Well,
So,
we wanna-
that's,
you know, the private companies can do their own E-Verify
Yeah.
program, but we don't have a federal and/or state E-Verify program.
No, we don't.
So-
which is unfortunate.
So, I mean, a federally mandated state E-Verify program. We don't have that. You know, this is a tough one. This is a whole nother show or 10. You know, you want to be able to document everybody who's on the road and insure them. There are a lot of people are getting insurance and canceling it anyway, and there's the citizens of this country who are just nothing but scofflaws and deadbeats, right? So, if they're on the road anyway, don't you want to be able to track them better with licenses?
I hate to say it, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. Will they get a license, or will they get a card that says?
Yeah, well, there's
we are?
there are states that have just driver identification.
Yeah.
And there's a
things.
question on having the identification with voting. I mean, I don't think that they can go in and vote unless they're registered, but is it going to say, what is this license going to say on it? I mean,
Well, there'll
And
a
will
s-
it be
well,
used
some
for-
states, Utah and others, have special driver identifiable licenses. It's operator licenses that are not fully. They're not used for anything other than identifying their right to be on the road. And
they don't. I mean, they're not here legally in the system.
well, you know,
That's what we have
we're
laws.
gonna have
what are you
to
going to do?
expand the
What are
work-
you, Donald Trump? You want to ship them all out? What do you want to do with the
Like,
people in
well-
this state that are here illegally?
I don't know.
Get-
Well, until you
get
give me that
them
answer, I don't know what you're
legally-
complaining about this for.
Get them legal.
Find a way to legally bring them in this country as an
We have
alien.
11 million people in this country that are here with the improper
Well, it's
status.
wrong. It's wrong. They're
I
here.
know it's wrong, but
It's
unless you have a plan
criminal.
to ship them out, it's not criminal.
It is. You're coming into a country.
Illegal entry is criminal. Illegal existence is civil.
Right, coming into the country is a criminal.
But you've got to get tough. Somebody has got to grab the bull by the horns and say, look,
This is it.
let's fix this
Then
problem.
you go do it, because I'm out of time. It's great to see you too. Thanks. Final word next. We're still talking here, by the way. The Common Cause Executive Director, John Marion, on the crony hire by the governor tomorrow here. I'll see you on the radio at noon at WPRO. Have a great night. Thank you. Bye.